it was well documented at the time, and you still think to this day that Scott Parker virtually talked himself out of a job in recent months when he was critical of his club's board.
I think it's self-evident, isn't it?
My talkSPORT colleague Alex Crook is telling me right now the situation at Wolves. What do we know the situation at Wolves to be? Julen Lopetegui's future at Molineux was said to be hanging in the balance after he publicly criticised the club's lack of summer spending. In the last few moments, we are hearing that Lopetegui is in negotiations with Wolves over terminating his contract. That's what we understand here at talkSPORT. Alex Cook tells us that ex-Bournemouth manager Gary O'Neill is favourite to take over from Lopetegui. So here we see it again.
Well, look, you have to be fair to Lopetegui. We don't know what he was told at the time when he came into Wolves. And if there's a bait and switch when he was told that we're going to bankroll this, we're going to... Because let's not be not specific. This is a top draw manager that's managed the national side, that's managed some of the biggest sides in Spain. He's come to Wolves. Some people would perceive it as a little bit of a coup. If he's been told by the Wolverhampton Wanderers hierarchy that there's a lot of money available, and all of a sudden he finds something completely different, because we've heard him nothing but bitching and complaining, so it would seem, about his lot. So if that's how he feels, the best thing they can do is cut their losses and let him go. And if he wants to extricate himself from a contract, they can let him go economically, can't they?
Yeah.
The question is Gary O'Neill going to be good enough to excite the Wolves fans about their feelings of where the direction of travel is? And does he have the chops? Now, we were all incredibly complimentary, and deservedly so, of the work that he did at Bournemouth in an environment that he was familiar with, on the back of galvanising against adversity. Wolves aren't in adversity. They did okay, right? And there's expectations once upon a time of Wolves kicking up towards the league. I am pleased that he's in the frame, because I think he's earned the right to be in a conversation. Again, I'm not sure how that would play out, but then again, I was a naysayer last year about the fact that I thought he could get them out of the fire. So if he interviews well, and the body of work that he's done for Bournemouth stands him in good stead for where Wolves' ambitions are. And don't forget, his body of work was keeping Bournemouth out of getting relegated. If that's Wolves' focus in life, then okay.
Well, to be fair, Bill Foley, the owner of Bournemouth, said a few things to me after he made the decision, along with others at the football club, to dispense with Gary's services. What he did say, Simon, was sooner than later, Gary O'Neill will land another top job in football, and this could well be it. But on Lopetegui, he claimed that he didn't know about the spending constraints when he agreed to come to the club at the end of last year.
This is my point, and this is always my point with situations. I'm very quick to jump on the back of managers and players about what I think they should and shouldn't do, but it's also incumbent upon owners not to spin yarns and bait and switch. If you've got a guy, and I think it's a foolhardy thing to do anyway, if you get a guy in the door on a pack of circumstances change, right? So something changes and there's a reason for it changing. But if you've got a guy in the door in January or whenever they brought him into Wolves, right? Or when it was September, October, wasn't it? On the back of the other fella going out, and you tell him that you're going to provide him with a significant amount of support, and you do the polar opposite, then these guys that you've made multimillionaires, that are islands in their own right economically, are going to turn around and say, "Well, I'm not having any of that." So it makes it a fool's exercise. But I suppose Wolverhampton Wanderers could turn around and say, well, he got us out of the cart. We didn't go anywhere near relegation. It's a job done. And if he's prepared to write off a contract and relieve himself from the obligation, then really and truly, so what?
Well, I mean, Jeff Shee, the chairman of Wolves, wrote an open letter to fans saying the club's spending in January has meant that they're unable to add to their squad this summer as they address FFP issues. You have to think that Lopetegui would know about that.
Well, you would like to think, given the amount of noise that comes from these people's mouths about how competent they are, that part of their competency would be to look at the picture to understand the job that they were taking. If you were being interviewed by a very wealthy football club owner and he tells you that the football club is in very good nick, is it reasonable to expect a football manager to suddenly want to conduct a financial investigation into the well-being of Wolverhampton Wanderers, whose accounts will be a year behind anyway in terms of the filing criteria? Is that reasonable? I would say that it's over-egging the pudding. I would say it's better that the owner tells the truth. But we don't really need to have a battle now, do we, between did the owner tell... Because the owner's going to turn around and say, I told him the situation. He's going to turn around and say, no, he didn't. And neither one of us are going to get any benefit from that particular debate, a bit like some of the conversation with Eddie
I was
Hearn.
going to say, is it really you telling us here we don't need to have a verbal battle?
I was catching myself in the irony of it at that moment in time.
Well, the bottom line is, though, as Alex Crook is informing us this lunchtime, the season gets underway, of course, this weekend. And Lopetegui, according to Alex Crook, right now in negotiations with Wolves over terminating his contract. And Gary O'Neill, favourite to take over from him.
Let him go. If he doesn't want to be there, sod off. Let him go. Get somebody else in that does want to do the job.
Okay.
Plenty of people for that.
Could be Lopetegui out and O'Neill in.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.